I'm also so excited. You can just tell there's a theme, and I'm like excited, and I'm bringing everybody up this afternoon because I'm so excited. I'm so excited to bring Dan and Amanda Rockwell on stage here in a moment. If you are not following Doing Business as a Couple on Instagram and the book face, if you're on there, then you need to make sure you do it. If you think that you are not in business as a couple because you don't have an actual business together, you're married. Just like you have your business and you have your personal finances. Your personal finances are your business. Well, guess what? If you're married or if you're in a committed relationship, you're in business together, okay? And they are going to share so many insights and knowledge on how to effectively do business as a couple. They have a fantastic story, and I'm stalling for time, you guys.
Oh,
You can
thank you.
tell. So I'm like, we gotta get Dan mic'd up. But I'm so excited to bring friends from Boise all the way up to North Idaho once again. Thank you so much, introverted Dan, for joining us on stage. Thank you, Amanda, for coming back. Let's go. Give him a round of applause.
Do you want to begin?
Switch.
This is how we practice in our living room, so you kind of memory.
So I completely botched this speech back in 7th grade. And I can remember every person in the audience, literally, well, I should say classroom, obviously, literally staring through my soul in those very, very long moments. And that experience literally painted my fear of ever wanting to do something like this ever again until today. So, but in the spirit of this event and consciously growing, here's to overcoming that fear.
And I'm so excited to be back. I had the honor of speaking about mindset last year and how do you step into becoming your future self. And it was so exciting. I swear I manifested this moment for Dan and I to be on stage together. I think he's a little mad at me, but this is my dream come true right now. And like he said, it was such a big growth moment for me that has transformed my life in so many different ways.
And I was actually sitting way in the back, scared for her.
Yeah, there's a picture of us from last year that I found just to prove. Can you all even find Dan?
I think I have a
Like,
pointer.
he's
I'm
literally
right
hiding in the
there.
back, and there I am in
And
the
you,
very front with my friends, so excited to be here. How many of you would be like Dan right now? This would be a pretty terrifying growth moment. You're like, right? How many of you would be like, give me a stage, a mic? I'm so ready. Yeah, Nikki's so excited. Well, that's why we think that's the true beauty about being in a relationship or in business with your partner. You have this unique opportunity to really stretch and grow with one another and also really show what more you can do when you're working together. But we have a confession. We never ever wanted it to work together. We had a very serious conversation early on in our relationship about how we'd never go into business with each other.
see, I knew Amanda had much bigger dreams of wanting to open up a coffee shop one day. And I told her, that's actually amazing. And I'll even fund it for you. But I don't want anything to do with the management. That will be your thing.
I didn't want him involved anyways, so it was good.
Now, it wasn't because I didn't think that Amanda would be an amazing business partner, because she absolutely is.
I paid him to say that.
It was more about my own past experiences. See, I grew up being exposed to business ownership at a really early age. My parents owned and operated 2 Harley Davidson dealerships for 37 years together. So I pretty much grew up at those shops and even held various positions over the years. But I saw how their business owned them. They were always there. I didn't know it at the time, but I even saw my dad get really burnt out from the constant grind of running a small business. So consequently, when he would try to step away on occasion, like in this picture, the business would fall, business would falter, just because it was so contingent upon him having to be there to thrive. So I went off to college to try to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I still found this pull and this interest in business and marketing. So that's what I got my 2 degrees in. But I still had a negative stigma around owning my own business because I didn't want it to run my life like I saw business do for my parents. But then I got back from college and the worst thing happened. My parents got a divorce because of the business. That was the final straw for me. That was it. My picture perfect lifestyle was no longer picture perfect anymore, and I swore off ever wanting to own my own business ever again. So then over the years I did various sales jobs and I actually did pretty well, made quite a bit of money over the years. But if any of you have ever done sales, traditional sales, you understand the never-ending hamster wheel that comes with it. Every single month, your numbers start back at zero, and then your manager has the audacity to tell you to hit an even bigger goal the next month. I hated this. I wanted something that could build upon itself. I wanted residual income. I wanted a hard asset, which eventually led me to buying the oldest dive bar in Boise, Idaho called the Cactus Bar with my little sister.
Now, I didn't grow up around business or talking about business. Actually, my parents are immigrants from Laos. And so they truly believe to achieve the American dream, you just worked really hard and got an education. So go to school, work, 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 go to school, graduate with some more degrees, and then work, 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 and then retire with your 401k and not take any risk. But I think deep down, my parents had that entrepreneur spirit because in 2007, they opened a restaurant. It was that quintessential Asian family restaurant where it's in a lot of towns and where everybody's working, everybody's helping out. I was a bus girl, I was cleaning dishes, I was waitressing, I was a hostess. I don't even know if I was of age, but I helped out my parents in any way that I could. And there's this one core memory that I remember growing up, and it happened the opening night of the restaurant. My parents got into the biggest fight and argument I've ever seen them get into. That I grabbed a pillow and a blanket and I slept at the front door because I was so afraid my dad was going to walk out on us. So the restaurant continued to be a pain point for my parents. And of course, as you all know, in 2008, when the recession hit, they had to close down the restaurant. They filed for bankruptcy. We lost our home. My parents downsized into an apartment. And for the next 10 years, I would have to watch them rebuild their marriage and their credit score. Oh, there was a cute picture of me graduating with my master's that I don't even use anymore, but that's okay.
Oh. So as you can tell from those two stories that we obviously did not have the best view of mixing business and family, which is consequently why we're so adamant about not going into business together. So we very much lived separate lives. We had different financial goals. We had very different mindsets around business and risk and investments. We even had different bank accounts as a married couple in the same home. So we very much lived parallel lives. But when COVID shut down the world, it also shut down our primary source of income because we were a bar. We were non-essential, which made us realize that we needed to lean into each other's strengths and embrace each other's weaknesses even more so, which led us to buying 14 units of real estate, starting our family, and becoming business partners, all within a span of a year and a half. But we promised each other one thing. We promised we would always prioritize our relationship over our business because if we're not good, then our business isn't good.
Okay, so of course, it did not come without its challenges. Dan and I faced a lot of different challenges, ones that would really test our business and our relationship. But hindsight 2020, we did really learn and grow from those mistakes and have become better business partners and life partners. But we wanted to share one with you all that happened really early on in our real estate investing. We were getting really cocky. We were about to buy property number 3, feeling really good. And so Dan had the idea to skip the inspection. Well, if you're in real estate, I saw some oohs already. You're like, oh, I know where the story is going. Well, but to be fair, we had a friend who was good at rehabs, knew a little bit about inspection, but yeah, he still wasn't a professional inspector. But I trusted Dan and we went with the decision. And when we got into the property, we started renovating it. And what we found was mold inside the internal walls of the property. And if you would have just looked up in the attic, you would have just saw all this black mold. It was blaringly obvious that there was mold when we bought the property. And so we had to do a full roof replacement. We took down all the drywall, did mold remediation, pretty much down to the 4x4s of the property, doing everything. And it was a $30,000 lesson that we had to learn never to skip the inspection and also learn to retrust one another. because when that happened, my trust for Dan did dwindle. And the worst part was I didn't even say anything. It was just this quiet resentment that was building in the back of our relationship and our business. And it would show up in our relationship, it would show up in the next business decision. And it was just this quiet thing. And so we would have to work through it. And we did, luckily. And luckily, we're not making $30,000 mistakes every single day now. But we're still facing a lot of different challenges while working with one another. Like, I don't know, this might be relatable for some of you all. Like when you're looking for a file in the Google Drive that someone labeled and they said they put it in this folder and you find it, it's not labeled that. It's not in that Google Drive. It could be so frustrating because you don't always think and act like your partner. Is it relatable? Some of you have experienced that? Yeah, I see hands raised. And so for us, let's just play a quick game so I can take a breather from just re-traumatizing myself with the Google Drive thing. If you have your partner here, this will be really fun because we can see the different dynamic. If your partner's not here, it's okay. Play along, answer. And if you're single, this will be kind of cool. Maybe you'll find your life partner while you're playing this game. You find your opposite. So the first question is, let's just raise your hand if you're more the introvert.
Now you're
Really-
probably not going to raise your hand anyways.
Oh yeah, they're not. They're like, yes. How about the extroverts? Yeah.
Oh, you're
That was so quick. How about those who are more the visionary? You have a lot of ideas, heads in the clouds typically. Yeah, that's me. How about those who are like the actual integrators are probably going to make it happen?
the important stuff.
How about when you're making a decision, you need a lot of information, facts, numbers, like tell me, that's not me. I don't know why I raised my hand. How about those who are more gut feeling, go with your feeling, it's intuitive? Yeah, that's me. And I want to add one more because I've been hearing a lot about this, but how about those of you who are more futuristic thinkers, like head, always planning? That is totally me. I have such a hard time being present. And how about those who are more present in the moment? That's definitely Dan. Thank you for playing along. For those of you who do have your partner here, you probably see that you're sometimes opposite with one another. Actually, we see that in a lot of couples who are working together. They typically are the yin and yang of each other. And it's really great. But we hear all the time from couples how frustrating it is to work with their partner, that like they ask too many questions and poke holes at their really cool idea, or they're so quick to jump and start something and they don't have a plan. They're always making mistakes. I totally get that. I said those things. That was me. I said those things about Dan. And I had to retrain my brain to remind myself that those are the strengths that he brings into our relationship. So when you have those moments of you're so frustrated with your partner, remember, those are the things that make you both a more dynamic duo.
So as you can tell, we put a lot of time into managing our business, everything from meetings to time blocking priorities to financial chats. Funny enough, these are all things that we actually do within our relationship as well. Everyone talks about communication is key. And yeah, we believe that to be true as well, but it's also super broad and it lacks a lot of structure. So we wanted to share with you a tool that we've actually been using within our relationship a long time, and it's really helped our relationship while balancing the growth of our business. And that's called our marriage meetings. So yes, we are doing business as a couple. So if you're a couple out there who is not actually doing business together, it's fine. We're still talking to you. If you're a single person out there, then this will more than likely help in the future. And single dudes out there, you bring up marriage meetings to your future wife, they're going to be super impressed.
Yeah, I feel like brownie points for sure. I know meetings, so sexy, definitely gets you in the bedroom, but what gets measured matters, y'all. If you have a business, what do you do to check in on the health and direction of your business? You typically have a meeting. So we thought, why not have meetings for your relationship so you can check in on the health and direction of your relationship? Dan and I just never want to be that couple where we just slowly drift apart. We want to constantly be working on relationship and checking in on each other. So our marriage meetings have become a safe space for us to really have constructive conversations and constructive feedback and give each other appreciation. Because when you're working with your partner, or even if you're investing, you are just constantly flooded with conflict and this never ending loop of feedback. And honestly, it can feel like you're nagging at your partner, which is not sexy and not going to get them in the bedroom, right? And so we work really hard to make sure that we're constantly showing each other appreciation. And you really choose your battles, because at our marriage meetings, you really only pick one thing to bring up that's really going to move the needle in your relationship. And it's not your time to nag and throw all the things that you have for your partner. Our marriage meetings have also become a place of appreciation. So Dan's love language is love, words of affirmation. And so we literally created a structure for me to be able to give him all this love and pour into him, because I know I'm not telling him every day how much I appreciate that he does for our family and our relationship. So one of the things that we've learned, I've mentioned the Gottman Institution. They're a leading researcher in relationships and couples and marriage. And they found this magical ratio in successful couples, and that's 5 positive interactions for 1 negative interaction. So you literally have to overcompensate for that 1 negative interaction that you're having with your partner. And so that appreciation is very, very important. Our marriage meetings have also become a place of intentionality. You're ready to receive and give feedback. So if you're someone who might get a little defensive, like me, this is a great place for you to practice taking in feedback that your partner is giving to you. Again, not a place for you to defend or rebuttal. It's a place for you to just take in that information and decide what you're going to do with that information. And then if you're someone who maybe struggles with giving feedback because you're so laid back, easygoing, nothing bothers you, this is a great place for that person to practice giving feedback to their partner because they care enough to bring it up. And so one of the things that we also learned from the Gottman Institution is that 69% of couples issues are perpetual, which essentially means there's no solution to them. Bummer. I want a solution for everything. It's essentially all about how you manage your conflict. And so our marriage meetings have become a really healthy space for us to manage through those things. Do you all want to know what the number one perpetual issue is? Yeah. If you should leave the toilet seat up or down. I'm just kidding. Ryan's right. It's money.
So if you're anything like me, you're thinking, oh, God, another freaking meeting. And yeah, I was hesitant about it too. But we implemented it slowly. And actually, sorry, back up. But there's 2 things. I love my wife. I wanted to stay married. So we compromised and did what she wanted to do.
Smart.
But it didn't come overnight. We implemented it slowly. It took a little over a year to finally get in the rhythm of things. First thing was making sure that your environment is set up for it. So we do it at consistent time. We do it at 8 p.m. bi-weekly after we put our kids to sleep. Have it at the right place, a place that feels comfortable, a place that feels collaborative. We avoid the office because it's not technically a business meeting. Coming in with the right manner and the right mindset, you have to come in with an open mind, ready to give and receive feedback while being kind. So Amanda mentioned earlier the Gottman Institute. They found that how a conversation starts determines how it will end 96% of the time. So a little pro tip, when you're giving feedback, use I statements instead of you statements. Can just come off less accusatory and more collaborative. And now we can go into a lot of different strategies when it comes to this, but we won't go into those today. If you're nervous about giving feedback, like I know I was, and sometimes it depends, sometimes I still am, don't worry about it. Get in the habit of doing the meetings because it will come. I was telling one of my friends a while back about a fight that Amanda and I had. And he said to me one of the most profound things that I've ever heard. He said, at least she's still willing to fight with you. Because if she's not willing to keep fighting with you, that means it's done. That means she's given up. And that means it's over. The next thing was having a system for documenting when those frustrations and those appreciations come up. Now, in the marriage meetings, I'm not talking about like meeting minutes. Talking about having an easy way of jotting those things down to come back to them later. So I use Asana. It's just a task management tool. Amanda uses notes on her iPhone, which honestly is probably easier. You could email it to yourself. Just make it simple, because if you're like me and it's not simple, you probably won't do it. Now there's a big caveat here. We're not saying that you don't bring up anything in the moment, because there are absolutely times that you should bring up things in the moment.
So we wanted to share with you all our actual structure, and we like to keep it simple, but one thing, we don't like to shit on anybody's relationship. So really take what you need from this and make it your own, but we just wanted to share with you all ours. So our first one is feedback. We just want to start off with the one constructive feedback that you're going to give your partner. Remember, this is choose your battle here. Really pick something that's going to really move the needle in your relationship. And like Dan mentioned, sometimes they're not always something to bring up. So it's okay to skip this section. And then we move into appreciation. We do 3 sets of appreciation because remember, we're trying to hit that magical ratio of 5 to 1. So we do 3, and you can't skip this one. We know you can find 3 things that you appreciate about your partner. And then we move into commitment. It's kind of like in a wedding when there's the ceremony and you do the vows. It's a moment to get back on the same page, get recommitted, and love is a choice. So you have to choose each other every single day. And one of the examples that I can think of was a couple months ago, we were having a conversation around money. It was definitely getting very deflating. And I decided to bring up in our marriage meetings just to let Dan know that I'm willing to fight and figure out this financial thing. I'm in it to win it with you. And it's just got us this extra motivation and commitment to one another. You could also commit to the feedback. So one of the things Dan and I have really been working on is screen time and making sure we're more present with our kids. And so one of the things could be I'm committing to putting my phone away during our family time. And then we move into ideas. This is my favorite because I am full of them. Like Dan said, I brought up the marriage meetings, but sometimes I can bring them up not at the best time. Like when our kids are screaming in the back of the car and Dan's trapped in the front seat. So I know he's going to listen to me. But then it feels like he's just shutting my cool idea down. Well, it's not Dan. It's me bringing it up at the wrong time and place. And so our marriage meetings have become a place for us to really be more collaborative and talk through if it's really going to fit in our relationship or not. One of the things that came from that was actually, so I read a book called Fair Play, and it talks about the division of labor in your home. And one thing that came out from that was Dan does all the dishes and I do all the laundry. And this has been going on for the last 2 years. And it really works for us because I hate doing dishes and Dan hates doing laundry. But now that I heard Dallin is outsourcing his laundry, I'm going to be doing that soon. And so ideas like that are really great to bring up with your partner, and so you could decide if it works with your family. And then we like to remind everybody to always end on a good note. It does sometimes get a little spicy sometimes, depending on what you're talking about. And so how we end our meeting is we answer 2 questions from the couple's gratitude journal. Actually, we're going to be giving those away, so we're super excited. So if you're paying attention, we have the 3 and the 2. Now we have that magical 5 to 1 ratio there. Or you can end with a 6-second kiss. You can hold hands, 20-second hug. The goal is to reconnect again. And the reason why those things is because there's this lovely hormone called oxytocin that gets released. It's the love hormone, right? It gets you to retrust one another again. So reconnecting on a good note. Our meetings are not very long at all nowadays. They're 30 to 45 minutes, but they first started off really long because we were still building a new habit and we had some things that we needed to work through, but they're not long at all. And then just again, adhere to your love language. Make this your own. Take pieces of it that really work for you and put it into your relationship. Excellent. And then we have this freebie for you. If you were trying to take notes or take pictures, if you just take a picture, the Gen Zs taught me this, you can go back to that picture, push down, and then it'll ask you for your email address, and then it'll send you the structure. But the cool part is you'll still hear from us for the next 4 weeks. You'll get 2 questions for appreciation so that you can start using it in your marriage meetings right now.
So one time, one of our friends asked me, she goes, "Do you and Amanda ever fight?" I was like, "Well, seriously?"
All the time.
Of course we do. Running a business together, managing our relationship, managing our kids. Sometimes it feels like the feedback was never ending. So don't let Instagram or the highlight reel tell you any different, because we're absolutely human too. We're strong believers that there's always going to be conflict in your relationship, and conflict actually equals clarity. So it may feel counterintuitive to lean into conflict in your relationship, but it really does give you insight into who your partner really is and what they really want. And I won't lie, I don't always do the right thing or say well, I always say the right.
Mhm.
But we never want to should on someone else's relationship because honestly, you're going to do what you want to do anyway. So it may feel very, very simple, but we truly believe this the incorporation of this simple tool in our relationship has allowed us to work on the one thing that's most important to us, which is our relationship. So, as Tony Robbins once said, energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. So, if you focus that energy into what truly matters, you can literally transform anything. Thank you all for having us up here today.